So helping me facilitate today, I've got members of the ECF team. If you scroll through, you might or might not see them, but I've got Kerry Deacon, I've got Linda Wookie, Alex Thomas, James Gear, and also Roland Harwood is helping me. Some of you might know Roland from when we did the workshops. So it's just really good to have several pair of hands. So if you just go through all that coming in the chat. Don't be shy, it's good to share who you are. The purpose of today really is our kind of first go at this sort of thing. You know, we were going to have the summit, we were going to bring everybody together in order to talk about what was in the roadmap and the plan, and obviously we're now in a bit of an unprecedented situation with everybody being at home under the pandemic conditions. We're trying this new format. We've got the conversation going. We think ECF can play a good role in bringing people together and carrying on talking about the importance of becoming carbon neutral by 2030. And just start to think about some of the experiences that maybe you're having and some of the perspectives that you've got on the plan or on the current environment, and just bring people together to talk about that really. So this is our first one. We've extended the invitation initially to those who had registered for the summit, and then in a couple of weeks we'll try and do another one and put it open to anybody that wants to join, and we'll drive themes coming out of the discussions, and those will be led by Kerry Deacon and Linda going forward. If you're all still, I think, introducing yourselves, but that will carry on for a while, I guess. So what we're going to do is we've just got a bit of a combination of a few polls just to gauge the mood. I'm going to take you very quickly through 4 slides that just overview what's in the Net Zero Exeter Plan, which we released yesterday. We felt it was still really important to release it. It is a mark in the sand. It's something that many people, individuals, have all put time into creating. And we felt it was really important to still put that out because it is important to start to think to the future really, and see, you know, are there things out of this that we can still pull forward and mobilise. So after we've been through the plan, what we'll do is just put some people into some breakout rooms. So we've actually got 65 people on the call. So we'll aim for 8 to 10 people in each breakout room. And I'll assign an ECF team member with you to help facilitate the conversation. And then after about 15 minutes or so, we'll come back into the main group. So we'll aim to finish around about an hour and 10 minutes, which is probably long enough for most people on a video call. So I'm just going to do a quick poll. Again, this is new for me with Zoom, so we'll see if this is going to work. But it is just a bit of a poll to capture the general mood really. So hopefully in the middle of your screen now you have a poll has come up that is asking you a question about the general mood that you're feeling about the current environment and the change it's bringing.
Not yet, Liz. It might be taking a second to come through.
Give it a minute. Anybody see the poll? Oh no.
Maybe try relaunching it, Liz.
I shall try it again. We had to have a couple of goes this morning. How about now? Everybody, I've got a sea of about 52 faces shaking their heads at me, which is kind of interesting. Right, I'll try one more time.
Yep. Keep trying.
Keep trying.
Hey, there we go. I've got it.
Hey,
got it.
Got a poll.
Yeah.
General moods. How are you feeling? So it is multiple choice. Just don't be shy. If you have another thought that's not in my list, then do please feel free to share it in the chat. Give it a few minutes while all the votes are coming in.
This is so great to see so many people here, Liz. I'm really delighted.
Yeah, Well, yeah, I was kind of worried it would just be us, really, still.
None of us got anything else to do, so we were glad to have this invite.
No, I think you just come anyway, really. But yeah, I mean, we are all a bit stuck. So I think if there's one thing, if people have probably had time to look at the plan, and I know in daily life sometimes there's little space, isn't there? Okay, so we've got a couple of other things coming out in the chat. Needed to restore the economy. Right, well, we'll come on to those questions as we move into the breakout rooms, actually. So it's slowed down now. I'm guessing everybody is kind of done. So what I'm going to try and do, if it'll work, is share the results. Does anybody see the poll results on their screen?
Yes, we do.
There we go, yeah.
Excellent.
Brilliant.
So we've got a few people fearful for the future, a bit of overloaded with thoughts. I think I'm in that category. I think my head is really busy with lots of thinking, a bit devoid on information and guidance, but a big percentage of people hopeful for change. And I think that's really exciting to see that, you know, even in these times, you know, we are really hopeful that something positive can come out for this and make a change. I think what we'll do now is move on to looking at our plan. I did see this morning somebody had called the plan a manifesto for hope, and I thought that was rather nice.
Liz, I just want to jump in and just remind people that we're recording today's session, just so people are aware of that fact.
That's good to remind. I know I said it at the beginning, but I guess maybe people haven't all heard that. So it's good to just keep reminding. Yeah, I am recording it. I just suddenly had a panic then that I'd forgotten to do it.
No, you were definitely doing it. But yeah, great to see everyone's. Well, the majority of people are hopeful for change. That's really great.
Hopeful for change. Yeah, that's what we like to see. So what I'm going to do is just share my screen with you for a couple of slides. Can anybody see?
Yes, we can.
Yep.
Coming through.
Can anyone not talking actually mute themselves, please? So I keep getting lots of different pictures popping up.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, I should be able to mute everybody from here, but I can't work out how to do that. Mute all. There we go. Okay, so I put everybody on mute, but you still have the function to unmute yourself. I will unmute you actually, Roland. Roland, can you unmute yourself?
Yeah. Just quickly, there's a question. Somebody can't stay for the whole session. So will we share the recording afterwards, Liz?
Yes, if I can work out how to do that. What we had said as a team was that we weren't going to write up any sort of summary and share with people that can't come. Certainly we won't have a summary particularly of the individual breakout rooms, but we can have a bit at the end. So if the file's not too big and the technology allows, then we'll do what we can. If you drop any info at ECF, just so that I know that, that's what you want.
Brilliant, thanks. And please do post your questions in the chat. We're going to try and come to people throughout, but there'll be an opportunity in the breakout rooms to have more discussion in smaller groups. But yeah, post your questions in the chat. Okay, over to you, Liz. Thanks.
Do that. Yeah, so I've got the participant list stuck right in the middle of my screen. So yes, the Net Zero Exeter Plan was released yesterday. You know, as a team, we're really proud of that, and many hundreds of individuals helped us to create that plan. So what I want you to do is just walk you through just a couple of slides just to orient you about the plan, really for those that haven't had a time to look at in any great detail. For those who don't know, Exeter City Futures is a community interest company. We were established back in 2016, and our purpose really has been to engage with the city and its organisations and individuals to help think about the kind of future that we want for the city, really with a focus on being net zero carbon. And we established 12 goals that we believe reflected the priorities of the residents and businesses across the city, and also map into the strategic objectives of our board. So on our board, we have Exeter City Council, Devon County Council, the University of Exeter, Exeter College, the Royal Devon and Exeter NHS Trust, and Oxygen House Group. And that reflects quite a lot of employers in the city. That handful employs almost about 80% of the population in the city. And it's been important to pull that governance structure together. And the 12 goals form the basis of our approach to the Net Zero Exeter Plan. They are grouped into 4 themes: energy, mobility, sustainability, and capability. And they align really strongly actually with the themes of a lot of other leading cities. So if you look at Barcelona and you look at Adelaide and Melbourne, then you'll find they have slightly different goals, generally reflecting the priorities and the values of the citizens that live in those cities, but they do tend to form across these 4 themes. So we used those goals as the basis of our engagement. In January, we put out our blueprint for a Net Zero Exeter. There wasn't a plan in any shape at that time. It was a list of the kinds of things that we would need to put together in order for the city to become carbon neutral. And we felt it was really important to put that out because we were starting to have conversations as a city about what we needed to do. And I think there was a lack of common understanding of what these changes are and actually quite how huge some of them will need to be. So we put that out in order to embark on a series of engagement activities. And we did those activities as a creative public engagement that we did in conjunction with Encounters Arts, and also as a series of more formal workshops with businesses and with politicians, all centred around the statements in that blueprint, really to ask people what's hard about this, what concerns you about this, and where is your hope or your energy for overcoming these. And we took in all of the reflections on that blueprint and we updated the statements so that they better reflected the opinions and the priorities of the people. And you can actually see that change if you go to our website, exetercityfutures.com. You can download the Net Zero Exeter Plan spreadsheet, and that shows you the original blueprint, the changes that were made into the plan, where they were derived from, and also some calculations to support the assumptions that we've made. So what is the plan? Well, the plan is a pretty big document. It's got around about 80 pages and it contains 3 sections. So in the first part, we talk about what we did to develop the plan and how the plan sits within the context of the vision for the city. So we've included the Livable Exeter housing development programme with the placemaking ingredients, and also some information on the Devon transport strategy, which obviously is a really key and important strategy for the city, and the alignment of both the housing development programme, the transport strategy, and the Net Zero Exeter strategy will need to align. That will be important to success. So that first part talks about how we developed that plan. It gives some detail about the feedback that we got from the engagement processes. And throughout the plan, we've taken specific responses from individuals, from businesses, and from politicians, where it supports the statements that we've got in the plan. The second part of the document is the plan itself, and that presents under each of the 12 goals some direct and enabling actions, as well as specific indicators. So some statements around accolades that we want, having no fuel poverty, or achieving an award for the sustainable food organisations. And that's where we know them. And I think what's important to say, and it says it in the preface to the plan, it's not a perfect plan. It certainly is not a plan to end all plans. We don't expect, in fact, we know that Exeter City Futures won't deliver the projects and the actions and the activities that are in that plan. What Exeter City Futures will do is work to facilitate, coordinate, and connect together organisations, individuals, community groups, people with problems, with people with solutions, and help them to set their own plans and strategies and their own projects in response to this It truly is a whole city effort. So what we've done is looked at the actions that we've set out and distinguished them between being direct or indirect. And where they are direct, we've used some basic assumptions in order to work out how much carbon savings we think that we could get. And then we've allocated those short, medium and long-term goals. So the ambition now is that as we start to talk about this plan, as we start to work it through, it'll be refreshed and reviewed. Certainly, I think that we will be refreshing it towards the end of this year. We have delivered it to Exeter City Council, and obviously we are delayed really in a response from them. They are quite rightly taken up with dealing with the crisis of the pandemic. But I know that they are still committed to looking at the plan. And I think as we start to get this learning, what we're learning from the current situation and build that into the plan, we'll be looking to reissue it as a fully endorsed plan by the end of the year. So in terms of next steps, one of the key pieces of feedback we'd had from launching the blueprint was that people wanted to know what they could do. So what is it that Exeter City Council needs to do? What is it that Devon County Council needs to do? What do businesses need to do? And actually a lot of people asked us, well, you know, what can I do as an individual or as a family? And I think it's really important that this is a collaborative document. It is something that we all have a responsibility to contribute towards. And those next steps at the end really outline showing that different organisations are going to have a different role to play in achieving. One single organisation can do it on their own. So I'm not going to go into any more detail about the plan. There are thousands of tonnes of carbon savings identified within the plan. We've presented these using kind of a thermometer style. And just to pick a couple out, we estimate that if all of Exeter's public sector organisations and schools committed to energy reduction measures, and I think for the calculation there we used 30% energy reduction, we would save around 7,000 tonnes of carbon every year, which is an enormous amount actually. Swapping schools, and this calculation was based on schools adopting a plant-based menu, and where they're using meat and fish, using those from sustainable sources. So this is not saying everybody needs to go vegan. This is just saying promoting more of a plant-based option. That would save us 500 tonnes of carbon every year. So actually there are a lot of savings coming. Making Exeter free from non-essential motorised vehicles is over 1,000 tonnes of carbon every year. So there are some big savings to be made. And we really want to start to open the conversation now about what people think about these things. Are they finding that what they're learning from the current environment is different? Are they thinking more differently now about reducing car use or working remotely that perhaps they were thinking about before? So I'm going to stop sharing that now because it's difficult for me to see what you've got there. And I can see a couple of questions have come into the chat. Kerry and Roland, can you help me pull some of these up?
So one of the questions, well, there's a few questions around finding a way to keep cars off the road, including flexible and agile working and decreasing short car journeys. Anything you want to say to that point, Liz?
Yeah, I think, you know, the car thing is a really big issue, and I know that a lot of people are quite divided on that. And note that we do say non-essential, and I think, you know, the definition of essential versus non-essential is something that does need to be thought about. I think, you know, the Devon transport strategy, and I've got Alex somewhere. I can see Alex. Hi, Alex. I don't know if Alex wants to drop in and say anything about maybe what Devon County are thinking, or you as an individual is probably a better question. Because we were having a bit of a chat yesterday about, you know, from a transport planning perspective, you're learning quite a lot from there.
Yeah, I can definitely add my 50 pence worth. I mean, in terms of overall carbon emissions, transport's the largest contributor, so it's over a third of all transport emissions. We know that our strategy for the city will be of paramount importance. It's great to be part of the CCF team and input into the plan, which was launched yesterday. We've got a draft exit transport strategy, but I think as a result of this pandemic, the ways of thinking, the lessons learned will change drastically. For me personally, it's an element of how do we lock in some of this reduced need to travel, and a big part for me is also how do we enable more healthier and active lifestyles. So I'm very interested to see what everyone has to say today, and happy to answer any questions in one of the breakout rooms.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks, Alex. Yeah, we will keep discussion for the breakout room because I don't think we'll be able to manage it with 65 people. 79, yeah. In fact, I noticed 79 people on the call today. I think, one of the other things that's come up in there, David Rochester, I know, has put that really we need to look to prioritise actions which are delivering the greatest savings per pound spent. And that's something that we've tried to pull out through the plan, is thinking about, what kind of investment is required for these. And I think there are things that we can do that actually have very minimal investment, but that could make a very big change. And I have to think that, if I was to have said to the city a month ago, I tell you what we'll do a whole city pilot where everybody does home working for 3 months, and we'll see how people feel about what transport they need. I can guarantee there is absolutely no way that I would have got that pilot off the ground. So, what we can learn from this about remote working, and I'm seeing some fantastic examples coming through of businesses that are historically, how do I put this politely, resistant to technology-enabled remote working, a fear that their systems won't cope, or a fear that their staff won't do it. And actually they have taken that step because they've been forced to, and I think they're learning a lot from that. So, what I think is important is to capture that. So I'm going to do another poll now, and the poll is going to ask you about what you think are the barriers. And I know somebody put this in the original poll in the chat box. I'm going to see if that works.
We can see that now, yeah?
Excellent.
I can see it.
So my question to you really is, what do you think, and whether that's what you thought before or what you think now given the current situation, but what do you think is going to be the hardest part of mobilising people and organisations to align their strategies to respond to this plan?
And this is multiple choice, is that right, Liz?
Multiple choice again, yeah, you can add as many or as few as you like, and if I haven't put something on there that you think is what you think, then please do share it in the chat.
Great, thanks.
Yeah, I've had 18 people have now voted out of 79, so I encourage you to share there. We'll try and see if we can get up to 60 or 70%. Interesting question just dropped in the chat box there about culture. I think that's really important. We were hoping to have a big section on culture within the plan, but unfortunately, due to illness, we weren't able to complete and include that section. So I know that I've had a conversation with Dom Jinks to try and get that in for the next version. Definitely culture important. That's coming through a few times in the chat now. So I've got 43 people, so 54% have voted. So if you haven't voted, just a couple more seconds to have a think, and then we'll close that off. Okay, so I'm not seeing any more coming in, so I guess that's what we're going to get. So hopefully,
yeah, we can see that.
You have sharing results. Money. I figured it would be money, and I think more so probably now, making the case. I think somebody has put in the chat, which I couldn't agree with more, is a challenge to get people to look at the investment in a different way. And I think that is really important. Where the money comes from, who pays for it, and how you value it is going to be so important. Some more comments about culture. Yeah, I would agree with that. Okay, so we've got scarcity of staff resources from Jill. I think that's absolutely valid. Policy to lock in some of these changes and really start to work. Collaboration, that's coming a bit more as well, and people needing to work together. So the second one we've got there is, yeah, money and resource. Not so much actually on persuading organisations to change. I thought perhaps that might be slightly higher from the group. So I'm going to stop sharing that now. And there's lots of interesting things coming through in the chat. So what I'm going to do is break you out into breakout groups. Within the groups, what we'll do is put a member of ECF into the group with you just to help facilitate the discussion. Really, it would be good to have a bit of a discussion about how you feel perhaps your perspective on the plan has changed. Do you think there are learnings that we're taking from the current environment that really need to be locked in and move forwards? Do you have energy now already for wanting to start to mobilise projects? Are there things that you're thinking about wanting to do despite the situation that we're in? So I am going to use an automatic thing to put you all into breakout room.
Before you do that, Liz, just to say, we'll be in breakout rooms for about 15 minutes, but then we're all going to come together as a whole group, and we'll ask somebody just to share kind of the key lessons that emerge from your conversation.
Hello, welcome back. Kind of pleased that worked.
Hi, Liz.
Hello, thank you for coming back in.
Sorry, I've been trying to get in, but the link wasn't working for whatever reason.
Oh, sorry, yeah, I think Zoom sometimes gets a bit upset.
This so moment. So what have I missed?
Well, I think I popped you in a breakout room. Everybody is just coming back into the centre now. Just trying to.
Okay.
So I'm just going to pop everybody on mute so that we haven't got any background noise. I'm going to try and do that anyway. Okay, so I think all the rooms are closed now. So hopefully you found that a useful experience. I know it is a bit weird being shoved into a virtual breakout room with a whole load of people you've never met before and told to talk for 15 minutes. But I think this is becoming the new normal. And you know, hopefully as ECF do more of these, we can start to theme them and focus them on specific topics. So at least you're a bit more of a community of interest, although, you know, everybody is here because they are interested and hopeful that Exeter City Futures will achieve the ambition as a city. So what I'm going to do is just go down the breakout rooms list. We actually had 9 rooms, and I know I ran out of facilitators, so there were a couple of people who I had to jump on and ask if they could help. So hopefully you didn't mind, and I'm really grateful for your support. So lots of people I'm hearing talking about challenges and learnings. The message of hope, I think, has come out. You know, perhaps we're taking a bit more time now, a bit more stock, and I'm thinking about our values and perhaps how much we try to cram into our lives and all this rushing around that maybe is adding to the transport burden in the city. Couple of concerns that I heard, you know, is virus and colds and diseases actually going to put people off of public transport? Well, let's hope we can find a way to make it so attractive that people will jump straight back on. So I'm going to go down my list and I'm going to ask all the rooms now look different. Kerry Deacon, can you pop on and tell me a bit about your room? So I'm only using your surname because there's more than one Kerry in my team.
That's all right. I felt like I was at school then. It was great.
Teacher, didn't it?
So we had a great conversation. So thank you to everybody who participated in the conversation with me. We talked a lot about that this crisis at the moment is showing us what we really have to do long term for the future. And we talked about how we can communicate that or keep the communication going around that, but sensitively, and be aware of that this crisis may be difficult for some people in terms that it is a public health crisis, and it's also possibly not that challenging for other people in terms of being at home, working from home, but to be mindful that how we move forward to be as inclusive as possible. Especially around the working from home environment, and not everybody is set up for that. We also talked about tackling things like air pollution and the reduction of car usage, and how we can keep people working from home afterwards. There's lots of other things, but I'm aware that you've got other people to get through as well.
Okay, that's lovely. Thanks, Kerry. If people have questions or other thoughts as they arise, if you just drop them in the chat, what we'll do is download the chat afterwards and either come back to you with answers or try and find someone who can help. But any thoughts as you go, if you just go down through. So breakout room number 2, I actually managed to put 2 of my own team in that one. That meant that there was no one in the end one, but I wonder if Linda Wiki might be happy to just give a bit of a summary of that room.
Yeah, no problem, Liz, thank you. And again, more great conversation, so fantastic. Thanks for contributions to everybody who was there. We started off looking at the opportunities that this situation, in which the immediate situation of COVID has provided for us, things that are very immediate needs for people. We talked around fuel poverty, and whereas people before might not necessarily have put their hands up and said they need it, but with work being at home often, and energy bills going up, and with people with additional time available to them to be able to do something about it. So that's both on the business side as well as on the consumer side. So that was really interesting. We looked at barriers as well. We've got these unexpected opportunities, and we've got opportunity to create or collaborate in a radically different way, which I really like that view of things. But we talked about barriers to that, and the major one being cost. Lots of people again will turn towards the difficulty of securing the investment to put these new ideas and new ways of being and working in place. We talked about the possibility that might then be taken on by grassroots, but the importance then of linking up from top-down strategy also came through. And people being able to get projects to investment grade ready or investment grade level was another comment that came forward. We too talked about air pollution, we talked about car usage, we talked about electric vehicles being one of the new or soon to be the newest kind of opportunity available to us. Through because the infrastructure is going in, although there might be a delay on that because of COVID, and just that we feel that the really nice conversation about what Exeter has going for it, and the brand of Exeter being forward thinking, and the attitudinal difference we've got in the city to wanting to do things well and intelligently is all going to stand us in good stead for this. And just finally, just to wrap things up, because there was a really nice line that sums all of our conversation up really, really nicely. So thank you very much for the person who put this forward. But it's things look more achievable now than before.
Thank you, Linda. James Gear, you were in the next group. Do you want to give a bit of a summary to everyone?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, thank you again to everyone who joined me and Roland. That was a really, really good discussion. I think something that kept kind of cropping up that was kind of interwoven in everyone's responses was around exit strategy in different forms. How do we kind of move forward positively after this kind of this virus pandemic? I know there was a lot of concerns around kind of, for for example, how the government are going to deal with this going forward. So obviously currently the priority is to help people with their safety, their health and recovery. But will we just kind of go back to, fall back into kind of business as usual as soon as there's some kind of normality again and we come out of lockdown? And what is the new normal? How can we make this an opportunity to focus on the positives and incorporate the changes that we may want to keep from what we're learning at the moment? So there's other issues around connectivity and access to technology. Not everyone has good access to broadband, so that affects kind of remote working, but ultimately there's a hope that remote working will kind of continue into normal life. So sorry, Roland.
I was just going to quickly jump in. 3 things. Policy. There's a policy framework, the Green New Deal, that maybe we should be championing. Exeter's leading the way in many ways in this regard, which is something to be proud of, but build upon. And there's an Innovate UK challenge that Carolyn mentioned. At the moment, the need for innovation right now. So perhaps, Carolyn, if you're still there, you could post that in the chat for people that are relevant. And we also had, sorry, was it David from a local business talking about his offices are empty and his server room is not air conditioned at the moment because no one's there. So is that something that they could continue? Anyway, lots of connections with other things, but I just want to add that. Thank you.
Yes, it's interesting to hear the business challenges coming through. And I think if you've got a business challenge and you want ECF to maybe try and use its network to call for innovators or people to come forward, do please drop us a line, either put it in the chat now or email info@exetercityfeatures.com, and we can see if we can use our networks to try and connect you up. So breakout room number 4, Alex Thomas, do you want to give us a quick overview, a couple of minutes? Is Alex still here? Oh, I can't see his picture. Yep. Oh, he's there. There he is.
Yeah, sorry, reoccurring theme, it seems. Lots of brilliant ideas in my group, very like-minded people. The view that as a city we need to recover from this crisis as a priority, but then use what is a very bad thing to hopefully turn it to our advantage, which I thought was a brilliant point. In terms of actions, it's how do we lock in the positives from this, whether it be increases in active travel, reductions in car travel, but also how do we revitalise the worst impacted, particularly those which are required if we are ever going to move to net zero. So you mentioned early public transport. After this period, there might be a reluctance or a nervousness around using shared transport. So there's going to be lots of sensitivities around the timing, but I think the overarching view of the group I was in was that we can't lose sight of the long-term needs. Probably the largest concern raised was how do we progress climate action in the right way, particularly in a period of what's going to be economic depression for the country. And I guess the response to that was there has to be better synergies behind each funding pot which is made available. So this idea of getting more bang for your buck, I guess, and prioritising spend in a more efficient way. But yeah, just would like to say thanks again. I thought it was a brilliant discussion. It's quite uplifting to hear everyone's views on this.
That's brilliant. Thanks, Alex. So we've got another 4 rooms to go. I know we booked it until 3:30, and we were hoping to finish by 3. So we'll aim for 3:15 latest. So thank you for your patience. It's brilliant to see so many people. Carrie McCarthy, do you want to give a very brief summary of anything different maybe from your group?
Yeah, I'll just add some things that are additional, because there was a lot of overlap in terms of working from home and the need to not lose momentum on the positive changes that have already been seen around reductions in pollution levels and so on. I think there was a really interesting point made about how this has made us rethink what is essential, both in terms of essential workers and what's essential to our lives, and opportunity to really consider professional identities as opportunities for work change, or the way you work change, and that perhaps presenting opportunities going forward, and needing a long time to embed these changes. So even though we know it's not going to go back to normal next week, if it were, people feeling that that's not really long enough for a change to be sustained, and that it is the long-term experience of these changes which has the potential to lead to lasting change. The importance of it not just being about hearts and minds, but you have to address the practicalities, the costs, the fact that a lot of people live in circumstances which aren't conducive to home working and so on. And a concern as well that, you know, as this strange period ends, there might be sort of a collapse into mass consumption and holidays abroad as a reaction to where we are today.
That's interesting, actually. It is a short window of opportunity, I think, to capitalise on change. Otherwise, I think people will go back to where they're comfortable. So next group, Mark Jones.
Hey, yeah, once again, thanks to everybody in that chat, some good discussion there. I guess the same things again, really, a lot of positivity in my group about the good things to come out of the situation in terms of like transport and working from home. The takeaway, I guess, was how do we keep that momentum going? How do we keep people with the reduced use of cars and encourage people to use active transport, those kinds of things. I suppose on the other side is being aware of what the impact remote working could have on the city centre. For instance, lots of offices suddenly become empty. You know, what will the city centre look like if everybody's working from home? And also just to consider, the effect that might have on people. There's obviously a positive effect from remote working, but there are downsides to isolation and being in the place you work 24/7. So considering those things, and just other things about like how serious is the intent for the city to change, and how open are the council and everybody to radical ideas.
Thanks, Mark. George, are you still there?
Yep, hi. So I think, again, we had a lot of shared issues with everyone else. A couple of areas where we maybe talked about things that other people haven't raised so far. That changes in planning policy take time, that some of these timelines might be challenging to keep to just because of the nature of the policy shift, and also that some things will require action from central government. So it's just things to be aware of, that there are things outside of the realm of our control. But I think, broadly speaking, we're quite positive and optimistic about the opportunity for change that's available. But I think mostly we covered things that have otherwise already been covered. So I know we're short on time, so I'll cut it off there.
All right, lovely.
That's right with you, Liz.
Anybody wants to add anything extra into the chat? I can see a nice little discussion on universal basic income and some other interesting pilots and positives that could come out of this. So now we're getting into my two rooms where I had to rely on other people, and I wonder whether Jill Westcott might be so kind as to give a bit of a summary of that group for me, please.
I can start, and please add in on what I've forgotten. We talked about the importance of visibility of people's emissions, or for businesses, about what energy they're using and ways that might be achieved, more smart meters, certain sorts of reporting, so that people actually can see what it is that they're trying to reduce or influence. And we talked about the need for incentives, including taxes like Sweden's carbon tax. So that is outside Exeter City Council's control, but it's an interesting example. Maybe business rates might be an area where the council would have some agency. And we talked about whether emissions are being measured on an area basis or on a consumption basis, but obviously both have to be influenced. Sooner or later, they both count. And how we can all be more aware that if we support the local economy, that in general often supports sustainability, although Sophie, you were very clear that's not always the case, and sometimes it's more carbon efficient to buy things that are made elsewhere.
That's a really good point, actually. Well, once you start thinking about the whole end-to-end carbon life cycle, the calculations start to get really, really complicated, and often the option you think is the most carbon efficient actually isn't from the whole system's perspective, and that's very difficult for individuals and businesses, I think, to deal with. So I know we're quite keen to start to think about data and how that can help with that. Really hard.
Really important, and labelling of products, but it doesn't work without engagement as well.
Yeah, correct, absolutely. Okay, so last group number 9, and I'm going to put a bit of a shout out plea because the person that I've put in there to help me has had to leave. So I've got Gregory Neal, Ian Collison, Thomas Stanton, Trevor Gom or Willem Postema. Any of you that might be happy to just jump on and give a bit of a summary.
It's Liz here. I volunteered. Yeah, we didn't have a facilitator, so we weren't quite sure what to discuss, but we had a really good discussion about transport and improving the cycling network around Exeter, so more people felt comfortable using it for a variety of reasons, including commuting from outside of Exeter, as well as for leisure. We spoke about the need to reduce cars in Exeter massively, and did touch on the sort of the working from home impact. But we did speak about a lot of people coming in to Exeter from outside areas, so how public transport has to improve to reduce the number of cars. And yeah, we talked about the sort of promoting positive journeys from stations, you know, walking or cycling around the city. I can't think, we've started talking about people, you know, flying less in this circumstance and adapting to that, and autonomous vehicles as well. So yeah, it was a very good discussion. Anyone else want to jump in if there's anything I've missed? But yeah, we were speaking about how Exeter is quite a hub, so for people coming in from outside of Exeter, not just people travelling within Exeter.
Thank you so much. I'm so sorry that your group didn't get, the person I thought was in there wasn't the person I thought they were, so I do apologise. Any last thoughts from you, Roland?
You've seen my suggestion in the chat, but you've rejected it. But no,
I can't. Roland is suggesting that I play you a tune on the piano, but I can't because it's not mine, it's my daughter's, and I can't play like even one note. Right? So that would just be.
Sorry, that was a bit of a joke. But I just wanted to say I think it's really amazing that we've had 80 participants and still 65 engaged at this point. We could always go longer, but I just think it's really exciting to see the enthusiasm and energy, and in some ways amplified now as a result of the current crisis. So let's build on that. And yeah, thank you, Liz and the team, for organising.
Okay. And I don't know whether Gurjit just wants to add anything about maybe how this is comparing to discussions in Glasgow, or whether it's just a totally different comparison to make.
In Glasgow, there's a lot more talks around a just transition. So what does this mean for the people from disadvantaged communities in Glasgow? We're trying to bring up some of the Adam Smith values, and what would the new economy look like, and how do we have real social mobility in Glasgow? So I think there's more emphasis in the just transition, and it comes from right top. So it comes from the First Minister, and we've got an SNP leadership in Glasgow. So they're quite closely aligned in their values.
Okay, that's really interesting, because I know a lot of talk has gone on about that in Exeter as well, and I know there are several people on the call today I can see who I know are really passionate about that as an area, particularly linking to the economy. What I might do actually, if you don't mind, is take that as a theme, and maybe we'll convene another conversation specifically around the economy and ensuring a just transition. We did have some speakers on that for the summit, and unfortunately we had to postpone that. So I think we'll do that. So I've got one final poll, and then I think that we'll wrap up for the day. So the final poll, which if it appears, is it going to play?
Yep. Yeah, we can see that.
Okay, so the final poll is, what would you like to see as an emerging positive coming out of this? That's, you know, really inspired by the talk of hope today, and, you know, the thinking of the future. Lots of things I think to go forward with about just transition, a bit more conversation about that in the economy. I think a bit more conversation about incentivizing people to get back on public transport, maybe to start to think about slowing their lives down, and not using so much. So some really nice ideas have come out today. So we've got 34% have voted. So if we just leave it for a second, stronger spirit of collaboration is winning by a nose. So we just give it another couple of minutes. There's still about 53% of people. I don't know whether it comes up on everybody's screens or whether they just don't know. So please share in the chat. I love the idea of a festival of ideas, and I think definitely we will be looking at engaging with other groups like Exeter Culture and with the council as well to start to get some of these ideas in proper face-to-face engagement. So I'll just, in the interest of time, I think close off the polling there. Couple of ideas coming in. I love the universal bus pass. One of the feedbacks we'd had was, could you get a bus pass if you were a family with children using the bus? And I think that's a really lovely idea because it is.
Liz, can you share the results so we can see?
Yeah, I have. Have they not gone?
Not yet.
Do you not have them? I'll stop and I'll try and start again.
Oh yeah, we've got it. Yeah.
There we go. So spirit of collaboration, we love that. Exeter is a collaborative city. It's one of the vision statements. So better work-life balance. Certainly for me, I think I've learned a lot about how much work you can get done if you're not spending 3 hours a day traveling. Makes a big difference. And a bit about policy change, 56% on policy change, but a sizable amount actually of local groups setting up community and social enterprise. So that's the end of our first conversation today. I think we're going to aim to have one in another few weeks. We'll start to think about as a team some specific topics and start to advertise those out on social media so people can just drop in and out like this and have a talk. If you're burning with an idea and you want to get cracking immediately, please do email into info@exetercityfeatures, and Kerry and Linda and the team and James can start to work to connect you up with other people with similar ideas or to have more designated conversations about those topics. So thank you everyone for coming, for giving up your time, and please do read the plan, feedback to us, share on social media, and we'll see you again. Thank you.
Thanks, Liz. Take care, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Bye.